Easy shade may be used to measure a single tooth area on a tooth, referred to as tooth single. It is recommended to clean and remove any stains from the surface of the tooth prior to measurement. It may be necessary to wipe the tooth with gauze to prevent the tip from sliding. While holding the probe tip steady against the tooth, press the measurement button on the handpiece until Easy Shade beeps. You must remove the infection control shield between patients to prevent cross-contamination. The Easy Shade also has a setting to allow you to create a shade map by dividing the tooth into 3 separate tooth sections: cervical, middle and incisal areas. When measuring the cervical area of the tooth, make sure that the probe tip is in contact with the tooth at least 2 mm from the gingival tissue. When measuring the incisal edge of the tooth, make sure that the probe tip is at least 1 to 2 mm from the edge of that tooth. If the tooth area needs to be remeasured, touch the tooth area on the graphical tooth map and a solid circle target will return to that site, allowing the new measurement to be made. The measurement results from the other 2 areas will remain unchanged. The incisal area is reported to the closest vita ceramic enamel shade, EN2. Measuring posterior teeth and cuspids, it is recommended to hold the probe in the middle of the curvature. Take the measurement and also remeasure the mesial and distal aspects. The shade is displayed as 2M3. This is visually confirmed by using the Vita 3D 2M3 shade tab. I will explain the classical alternative neighbouring shades in the extended mode section later. To verify restoration, only the base shade of the restoration is measured in the middle third. A minimum thickness of 0.8 mm of ceramic material must be present to assure the accuracy of the verification. A highly translucent all-ceramic restoration, such as spinel or a laminate veneer, may give inaccurate readings due to its high translucency. It is recommended to use an appropriate underlying preparation tooth colour to ensure the best match. Shade tab mode is used for practicing and also ensures that the operator that Easy Shade is reporting shades correctly. Approximately 10 million colours may be defined using today's advanced technologies. The human eye can perceive approximately 1 million variants at best. Typically 1,000 dental shades could be measured within the global human population. Only 100 so variants are considered visibly noticeable. Colours can be clearly defined scientifically through a 3-dimensional model, the colour space or sphere. Lightness runs from the brightest to darkest at the bottom. Chroma differs in intensity from the core outward. Hue, the actual name given to colours, are seen around the external surface. The banana-shaped area is where the location of natural tooth shades are. The selection and reproduction of tooth shades are extremely complex issues, often reaching the limits of human perception. Colours are perceived in a highly subjective way. However, when colour is quantified using numerical values, subjectivity is removed and consistent, reproducible colour is achieved. In the classical shade system, many shades are clustered and overlap each other, appearing similar, as shown in this diagram. Due to the clustering effect, it is not possible to exactly mix and match shades, as it is with the Vita 3D Master System. These popular shades may appear similar under different lighting conditions. In the 3D Master Shade System, colours are equally spaced. EasyShade measures intermediate shades that are difficult to see with the naked eye. Because of this, EasyShade can prescribe more than 81 3D master shades that your lab can easily produce. In this example, we are mixing 2M3 and 3M3 equally to have 2.5 M3 as a result. Assume a patient's shade has been measured. The resulting 3D shade of 3M1 is displayed with a classical shade of C1. Also recommended for consideration is the shades B2 and C2 in the smaller text. These additional vita classical shade variants exist due to the overlapping or clustering effect of several vita classical shades, which are also close to the patient's actual shade, with C1 being the most prudent. This is not the case with the specific choice of the 3M1 3D Master Shade System. By touching the interactive display screen over the 3M1 result, the image is highlighted, changing the display to the visual shade graph similar to the Vita color communication form used for shade prescription to your dental laboratory, which is available from VDent North America and Vita distributors. The resulting 3M1 shade is the most accurate despite the advisory cross cursor being located over the yellowish hue 3L1.5 located at the top left-hand side of the 3-value shade group. These shade groups are arranged from 1 to 5 and are displayed on the left-hand side value bar. On the right bar, the chroma is shown as a plus 0.1 chroma variant, which EasyShade has rounded up to 3M1, as such subtle differences has little visual influence. By touching or lightly tapping on the current screen, the display changes to the patient's actual shade marked by the cursor within the color space of Vita 3D Master Shade System. By touching the lower button on the left-hand side of the image, the display magnifies to the specific field of shades as shown. We now see clearly that the patient's shade is touching the 3M1 tab, but is also close to the influence of 3L1.5 in chroma. On the right-hand side of the screen, an adjusting scale shows the variance of relative hues of the 3D Master System. Touch the screen again and the translucency of the patient's tooth is shown. This scale should only be considered when taken from the middle dentine third of the tooth. The result is then considered comparatively to the translucence of the middle third of a Vita shade tab. In the middle of the illuminated scale is the typical translucency of a Vita shade tab. In this example, the patient's tooth is very similar or marginally higher in translucence. This scale is not a recommendation of enamel translucence, but only a guide to the overall translucency of the dentine in the middle third area. This may be considered a helpful tool when determining a prescription for an all-ceramic crown versus a metal-ceramic restoration. By touching on the display screen once more, the display changes, accessing the LAB and LCH data values. Touching the display screen again produces a spectral curve graph of the patient's relative shade. The visible spectrum runs from 400 to 700 nanometers and makes up all the influences of individual color present and reported in the analyzed shade area. Finally, by touching the screen once more, we return the operator to the original default screen information. At any time, should the operator be in an extended mode screen display and wish to return to the original default, simply keep touching the screen, scrolling until it appears. To evaluate the classical shade result, touch and highlight the C1 example and the following screen displays, with the specific variants of the Vita classical shade in lightness or value, chroma and hue. We can see a minimal difference in the lightness value as illuminated, a higher chroma and a hue leaning into the red when compared to the standard C1 shade. Also shown on the right of the screen are the numeric values of deltas LCH, LAB and delta E results. As discussed previously, the classical shades exhibit a clustering effect or multiples of shades that may appear to be similar. It is therefore most unlikely that such shades will be reported solely as a single classical shade result, unlike the definitive Vita 3D Master system. By touching the screen again, it changes to the classical value and hue color space graph. All the Vita Classical 16 shades are present. It is now apparent that many of the shades are practically clustered or are on top of each other. This is why the classical shade system is often confusing in manual selection, as many of the shades appear similar, but which cannot be equally mixed to match a perceived result. Looking at the X cursor, which is the actual patient shade, it is closer to the shade C1. Easy Shade has also reported we should consider secondly B2 and thirdly C2 influences. This is why the Vita 3D Master system is superior in considering all three dimensions of color separately. By touching the remaining displays, the same screen examples as previously discussed of translucency relative to the shade tab in the middle third, the LAB and LCH graph and spectral curvature are shown, returning finally to the default Easy Shade result. Presets contain the factory default settings of the Easy Shade with additional options and features allowing the operator to choose tools for different analyses, modifying how the data is reported on the screen. You should only consider entering this field after reading the supporting user manual. Presets is only available at first power up, while the display states lamp warming prior to the calibration. By touching the Presets button, the display changes to the first page with adjustments of volume, brightness of the displays, and lamp timeout. This is the amount of time that the Easy Shade will set before the device enters standby mode. It is not recommended to adjust the setting of its maximum 10 minutes, as it can shorten the life of the internal light source. Adjustments are made via the arrows on the right of screen. Should you wish to exit and return to the calibration and use of Easy Shade, simply press Exit and Save at any time. Assuming more preferences are required, press the Next button on the right of the display. On this page, we can change the default menu at Power Up by navigating the top menu from to single to tooth areas or restoration mode. The menu under denotes normal mode and the choice of normal and average mode. By selecting this, the user will have a constantly displayed under the normal menu a secondary option that can be turned on at will to either perform a conventional mode as discussed, but also with the choice of averaging two shades. This mode, when turned on, differs in use by placing the handpiece probe over the various areas of a suspect or confusing tooth dentine area. Then by taking multiple shades, Easy Shade automatically averages and reports the recommended shade result. Implications for such use are typically severely influenced teeth by hyperplasia, calcification, and the effects of tetracycline use. Please refer to the user manual for more information. The final choice of menu, seen here below, is to turn the function of the classical shade system off, which displays Vita 3D Master shades, only leaving both selected. In any of the presets menu screens, the user can scroll backward to the previous page or forward using the Next button. Pressing the Next button moves the display to the next screen of options of translucency scale on or off, reducing the overall hidden screens. The choice to show LCH when elected will create Easy Shade normal mode to produce results that include the numerics of lightness or value, chroma and hue. Incisal on or off results refer to the enamel shades in tooth areas, which may be reported to the appropriate Vita enamel ceramic or by reporting the enamel shades as expressed in supporting dentines. By pressing the Next button once more, Easy Shade displays the final preset options of Install Calibration Block. This should never be opened or amended unless the user is replacing a damaged or lost calibration block with the approved Vita replacement authorized serial version. Finally, the last option is the user self-test diagnostic tool that checks interactively each operational component of the device by prompting the user to turn on selected functions and advising the status, pass or fail. When all preset selections have been adjusted, simply touch the Exit and Save button to return to the regular use and calibration screens. For detailed information of presets, kindly refer to the user manual for more information. We would like to thank you for your interest and wish you much success with your Vita Easy Shade.